Hello, everyone online. Just by way of an introduction, my name's Nick Walsh. I'm the account executive for Movin for New South Wales and Victoria. For those of you, or for any of you that are new to Movin, we're a construction technology platform that gives operational teams holistic visibility of their road network so that they can better plan when, where, and how to work with unparalleled context on the potential impact to road users in the broader community. We help delivery teams adopt to daily conditions, enabling them to identify and respond to events in real time, as well as providing powerful channels to engage directly with the public in order to manage expectations and ultimately reduce complaints. The core purpose of this is to deliver projects faster and more efficiently while keeping safety always top of mind and improving the overall experience for road users in the broader community. We've been working closely with ConnectSydney for just over a year now. We've been providing them with visibility across the Harbourzone network, which is one of the 3 Sydney road asset performance contracts that's tasked with maintaining Sydney state roads. We have so far had a particular focus on assisting them with the planning and delivery of their tactical program. And today we're joined by Brennan Daly, who's the project director for ConnectSydney, as well as Rachel O'Reilly, who heads up customer experience. They're going to share some of the wisdom that they've gained from working across the contract in their various roles and how they've been tackling the challenge of managing disruption and improving customer experience through innovative technologies. So without further ado, I'll let you guys take it away.
Right, no worries. Well, like I said, took care of slide 1, so thanks, Nick. So yeah, just a little bit of context to just explain our experience with Movin. So I think we have been working together a little bit more than a year. We actually did join up during the tender phase, so over 3 years ago.
That's a good point.
And I guess, we were quite attracted by the value proposition of Movin, I guess, in a way that would let us quantify the impacts, I guess, of our activities on the network and change the language that we're using to access the road, working with transport. So this is a map of the area that we are responsible for, so the blue zone within Sydney. So basically, if you're not that familiar with Sydney, it sort of does represent the sort of the older part of the city, the most mature part of the network. So so probably 2/3 of the assets of the areas in total that you see there. 75% of the customer complaints, probably 80% of the ministerials, and 100% of the ministers live in the Harbourzone. So it gets a bit of focus, but we'll keep going through. So yeah, I won't go through this one in detail, but yeah, basically look after road pavement assets, bridges and structures, corridor assets, which is basically everything that sits beside the road, as well as the ITS, so traffic lights across that network. So it's a pretty big and complex zone. It generates a lot of interaction with stakeholders. That's probably enough there. Maybe just a little bit, just to sort of explain the way that we work with transport here. So I guess one of the principles in our contract is the stewardship principles, and the idea is that we sort of don't just purely act as a contractor in this model, but we are intended to act more like an asset owner or a steward sitting beside transport. And on the screen here, I guess, are some of the key priorities that we are challenged with improving through the contract. So a couple of them Nick already touched on in the opening there, but focus on customer, focus on safety and performance, as well as innovation. So that was something that Movin really responded to for us in the bid, and something we really wanted to bring to life, which I think we're on the journey of now. So just keep going through. So I guess, just want to, again, this is further setting the scene. So just a couple of pretty pictures here showing the sort of works that we get up to. So during the weather events that we had in Sydney over the last couple of years, was the unprecedented rainfall. So this one down here is in National Park. It shows the whole road has basically slipped away. And yeah, this is the sort of thing that we use moving forward to sort of assess the impact of the longer term impact of traffic. This road was sort of closed for, 18 months and counting, I suppose. The repairs coming up on this one soon. Let's keep going. And again.
made.
Yeah, so this is just another example of this sort of work. So it's a slip site down on Heathcote Road. So this one we have used Movin to assess the impact of different options of closures in here. So basically with this one, it doesn't look like too much from the top, but effectively the whole road slope is falling away in here, which has required a solution which is going to look a lot like a bridge. You won't know it's a bridge when it's built, but that's what it's going to look like in the ground. Now, I guess you can imagine that building a bridge like that on a live road is not the sort of thing that you can do easily. So we are going to have to close the road in full and put a detour in place. And I guess we have used Movin to convince transport along the lines of, well, effectively that we understand the impacts of that. It will be quite a long detour around this route. Heathcote Road's quite a busy road in Sydney, so we get something like 10,000 vehicles a day. 17. Oh, thanks, Colleen. So, look, busy road, and I guess one thing that we have been able to use Movin for is to, I guess, have a data-based discussion about what these things mean. I guess there's a lot of sensitivity around the roads. I guess the context that I described with ministers and customer interactions, all that sort of thing. Everybody has a story about that time that something went wrong, which influences decisions then about what goes forward in terms of road space. So again, to be able to put down, well, this is the normal traffic profile as measured in data. These are the times of day when it's quite critical. Can allow you to really communicate those impacts in a way that I guess takes it beyond supposition, which is really good. But it also means then for the type of closure that you do want to put in place, you can build confidence on what the likely impact will be, as opposed to, again, what people's gut feel reaction is to that scenario. So in this one, we will have a methodology which will have us fully close the road for periods of time. And I guess those periods of time have been structured around the lowest impact, obviously. And I guess we have gained confidence as a result. Going. Next one. I think
we've probably covered that.
Talk to these ones.
Yeah. So these are the actual examples of where we. Do you want me to
I think this is where I hand over to Rachel. So,
so we've got a couple of examples in here about where we've been able to use Movin to actually.
You might see. Yeah.
No, don't. So Lane Cove Road, obviously another extremely busy road, and one where we were extending a right turn back. Very, very sensitive area as far as customers are concerned as well. So we have got live network monitoring, which we haven't quite touched on yet, but we've been able to aggregate a fair bit of data so that we don't need to wait for the project to come to us to have a bit of an understanding about driver behaviour. So this one went back and forth a lot, as I recall. So initially, we were given a road occupancy licence starting at 10:30, or that was what was suggested. Given the nature of the works, that was going to extend the program by, it was going to be significant. It was going to have a huge impact, and that would have resulted in a $500,000 variation. So that tends to make people listen. And so as a result of that, we were able to go, look, here's the data. We were able to say we can check in throughout the works and say this is the delay time. Delay time became a big topic of conversation, which is, I think, quite positive in that it's moving the conversation forward and away from just traffic counts. So this was one of our first major successes in that we were able to get a 9 o'clock start time in the end. And that hour and a half window, as everyone would know, makes a world of difference when you're looking at extensive setup and demobilisation of site as well. So during the work, the journey times didn't go above 3 minutes in delay time. And for that, $500,000 was saved, and customers were disrupted for a significantly decreased period of time. So that was our first, I'd say, major success with Movin. And from there, we were able to build a bit of confidence, and that's part of what we're going to have to do in order to get this over the line more consistently, so that we can have those conversations more broadly. We have had some major successes so far, but it'd be great to have those conversations more openly and be able to apply it to more projects in future. And as that network monitoring stays active, we'll be able to have a stronger case as time goes on as well. So that's just a delay profile. I don't know if you've shown much of what the platform looks like to the audience.
Some people would have seen, some people wouldn't have seen.
Yeah, so that's just an example of a delay profile, so we can make an assessment of what travel times look like, delays look like over the course of the day. And in that case, it's over the course of quite a few weeks. Gore Hill, this is mine and Kylene's personal favourite. I don't think Kylen got introduced before. She's our traffic manager. So this one was significantly difficult, I would say, in terms of actually getting this work done. So the Gore Hill Freeway has never been fully closed for maintenance works. It does have the added complication of having the Lane Cove Tunnel on one side and Warringah Freeway upgrade had just started on the other. So so we did have to do quite a lot of engagement with those two parties as well, and they were actually quite happy to work with us. It was just a case of, you know, rather than having to inconvenience pretty much the same set of customers in 3 different times, if we can align to Lane Cove Tunnel's scheduled closures and Warringah Freeway were okay with it, then we had to kind of build our case to be able to say the detour that we're proposing is not significantly more impactful than the one that would otherwise be in place for those works. That involved having to talk to customer journey management, or including network access. It involved Greater Sydney and CJP, customer journey planning as well. So we ended up having to get, you know, a whole lot of executive directors in the room and go, look, we will assure you that we will update you every morning with how we've gone, what the delay time was, and what we did accomplish during the shift. So we got agreement there, and we were able to close it for the first time, resurface it, and I think ultimately that to me is one of the biggest wins we could secure, because that is a highly sensitive area. And it also means that we were able to tell a real customer success story there, in that, you know, overnight they're seeing radical improvements rather than incremental ones across 3 different projects. And they're really good to be able to work with 3 different parties as well to try and get that done. So that's what we should be trying to do more often when those opportunities present themselves. And a big part of getting on the road is looking at where there are conflicts and where your work conflicts with other parties. It doesn't mean it's a one wins, one doesn't. It can mean that we get an outcome like this, which is significantly more appreciated by the communities, I would say, in general. And yeah, just everyone's a winner as long as we can plan it properly and we can evidence that that is actually going to be the outcome.
Yeah, I suppose having seasonal visibility of Warringah Freeway would have helped as well.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
And the difficulty was that we were always going to have to work around Lane Cove Tunnel's closures regardless, and that would mean that that would have sat in fairly appalling condition for another 3 months. So yeah, no one wants that, and it was quite bad because of the complexity of getting on the road. So that one is my favourite. I've got some framed photos on my wall at home. And the basis of all of that, I suppose, is the performance monitoring across the network that we had active. So now our project managers can go in and create their projects, look at what, you know, detours look like, and get an understanding of the driver behaviour. And as I said before, trying to move away from just looking at the actual volume of cars is really meaningful. I mean, there can be 100,000 cars using a road a day, and they can all have a perfectly great journey, or there can be 100,000 having a terrible one. So it's more about the quality of what the journey looks like, rather than just how many people are having it. So this is something that over time, as I said, will become more convincing a case, and we look forward to submitting a lot more of that with our projects in future. One more thing I did want to touch on, which is not in here, is the disruption packs. Producing that for Oxford Street was great and very interesting. And it was quite well received, and there was actually some interest from other areas in transport about what that looks like, particularly when we're able to get an understanding of public transport as well, rather than quickly. And we're able to have a summary and a bit of a score sheet to go, yes, the project's done now, but this is what it looked like in whole. So we'll be using those a lot more in future.
So for those of you that don't know what we're talking about, it's a recent feature that we've recently produced where we're able to very quickly generate, you can put a submission in for public transport routes and information on businesses and business hours in the surrounding area, surrounding work site. We've received very, very positive feedback so far from it. So it seems like something that everyone seems to be wanting. And from the government side, it seems to be getting some really good reports. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that also feeds into that idea that, you know, this is multimodal. So we're working on the roads, but the roads are all feeding into those other forms of transport as well.
Yeah.
So neglecting to consider things like buses.
Yes.
It's probably been the practice for a long time, but it's one vehicle with how many people is that impacting. So that disruption pack was for Oxford Street at Darlinghurst. So as you can imagine, that's not just straight 9 to 5. There's a huge amount of different businesses there, different business hours, and then you've got the residential element as well. And we actually did receive very favourable feedback from the community and the businesses there throughout the delivery of the work as well. So that was very positive because it was a project that was under a lot of scrutiny, and there was probably a fair bit of backlash expected. Because other projects have not been so popular on Oxford Street in the past. So that's good. It's not quite finished yet, but it's still got a few touches to go on it, but the majority of the work is complete.
Excellent.
So it's pretty much all we had in there.
Fantastic.
Real-time data, how do you get it from? Where do you get real-time data?
So we have an integration with Google's API. That's so we're able to pull information on speed. Correct. Yeah. So
I want to show you that where you have sensors on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So we
Recognition of traffic.
correct. Yes. We also have an integration with TomTom, and then we sort of label ourselves as data agnostic, whereby we can pull in a whole lot of other relevant data sources that you might require. So we can.
I think I must visit you one of these. I see sleeve conference because I remember seeing this similar.
That may proceed, maybe potentially.
I'm sure I've seen this before.
Yeah, right.
I thought same company. Oh,
Yeah. There you go.
yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that Google is our primary data source. But we are able, so we can also interface with SCATs, especially for those in the Transport for New South Wales window. SCATs is the one of the key systems. So we're interfacing with SCATs for account, and we can also do volume data. We can also do classification, but obviously they come from more technology-based deliveries.
Actually, the one from New Zealand was on counting trees. It's the same satellite. That's what just.
I don't think we count trees.
No, the same New Zealand company, but using the same type of satellite, looking at growth of trees and forests in New Zealand. It's a still New Zealand software. So you can see where forests are dying off and what's going on.
Oh, right.
But it's a New Zealand company using the same type of
Yeah, right.
satellite.
Interesting.
In different areas of New Zealand. So that's what I heard.
I've got a question for you guys. Moving forward, have you guys been talking internally about what you want to do next with Movement, and we're obviously touching on a sort of, I think, quite a small segment of what you guys are currently doing. Have you got a plan in mind, or where you see it moving?
Yeah, well, my feeling is that it's just going to get a bit more embedded in the way we deliver the work. So initiation. Get the project created and Movement as part of that initial phase, so that we're actually looking at all of that immediately, and we're building that particular project maps data straight away. We can do that sort of with the network monitoring, but we're doing that bit by bit with various projects at the moment, whereas I'd like to see it for all projects.
Yeah, I'll probably answer that question a little bit differently. I mean, to me, it's not actually about new aspects of technology. It's actually about the people. There's a whole shift in the way that people look, there needs to be a change in the way that people look and administer road space going forward. And I guess, from our perspective, we see the cost of road occupancy, as in, if you don't give us road occupancy, we see a job which could be done in 3 nights now will take 6 nights, 12 nights or 24 nights. I mean, that sounds extreme, but I guess a good example, we had something up on Pennant Hills Road the other week. So looking at Pennant Hills Road as concrete road, we're doing some concrete pavement repairs in that area. And historically, transport would only provide very limited windows of opportunity to work on that road. North Connects is now open. Underneath that is a whole alternative route, but that didn't really seem to factor in. But when we actually spelled it out, it's like, well, at the moment you're saying to us we can have access to the road from 11 o'clock. Well, in order to actually complete a pavement repair in concrete, get it done, you basically got to be done by 12:15, 12:30 at the latest in order for it to be gone off to be open in the morning. So you're basically left with, what are the maths on that? By the time you set up your traffic management, you maybe have an hour to go and do this patch. And now all of a sudden, okay, we've got 300 square metres of patching. If you had a reasonable run at it, you could smash it out in a few nights. They're basically one patch a night. We actually were able to articulate the impact of that, and that's what I'd like to see going forward. Is at the moment the decision relating to road access happens in isolation of the cost. It's all just purely about the road user impact, and I'm not sure about whether people will be upset and something like that. That's the sole lens. Whereas at the same time, particularly with this government now, they're coming in talking about we need to find more cost-efficient ways of doing things, and I guess looking at us like contractors, so well, what are you guys doing about it? It's like, well, hang on, what can we do about it? There's a whole bunch of costs we can strip right out of this without actually changing the cost base. It's all about just access. So that's where I would see it going. And I think, going forward, I want to be able to use movement to facilitate that conversation in a way that, it's about data and not about the negative experience that somebody had 4 years ago. In a similar road.
How challenging are you finding those conversations as you bring like another case? Is it a bit like they are getting more receptive in customer journey management?
No, look, it is improving. That's been our experience. It's still got a long way to go.
The conversations are longer, probably, I would say, than we'd like them to be. But when you can make a case, and then those cases can be about, concrete is a very good example, but Gore Hill was a good example as well, because it was the customer argument was the one on return going, well, that's more disruptive and slightly more disruption over a significantly decreased period of time.
Yeah, because in an ideal world, you get to a point you submit an ROO application with the data that says that's why I put 826 on this application, and that would just be kind of half the course, not what I imagine is a forwards and backwards conversation for a while.
The thing that Rachel was alluding to before, that Gold Hill experience, that was 6 months in the making, the amount of 9 months, sorry, rather than saying 9 months in the making, backwards and forwards, through all the different planning aspects. Obviously coordination with Lake Tunnel was a point, but at the end of the day, this still was not going to get up if we were dealing directly with the people involved. It needed to be escalated, and I think we had 3 executive directors in the room to eventually make the decision. But the important thing was, because we've done the groundwork and we had the data, it actually made it a pretty straightforward conversation at that level. So
that final conversation was actually quite brief. Everyone was going, let's go, let's do it. But I suppose up until that point, it had been quite a back and forth. And I think road occupancy isn't necessarily looked at in holistic terms. It's looked at as, how many hours over how many, it's not being looked at in terms of the big picture is we can get this done more quickly with negligible impacts. And, the sentiment that customers want shorter windows of roadwork, I don't think is necessarily accurate.
Short windows in terms of on a night-by-night basis.
On a night-by-night basis.
Yeah, I've always had the feel, no data in this statement at all, that people would much rather be disrupted for a longer shift period for a shorter number of shifts.
Yes. Yeah. Aggravate me for 3 nights instead of 8.
Yeah, because I'm aggravated anyway.
Exactly. And I'm only going to get more aggravated with every interruption. So I think it's just about being able to demonstrate that is the sentiment. For us in the network, we have very, very sensitive communities, and as Brennan touched on before, 75% of complaints come through that to the Harbourzone. So that would indicate that people do want us out there, they do want us working, they are concerned and invested in the condition of the network. And in order for us to service that, we do need to invest in technologies that are going to give us that picture and enable us to get it done. And this is working for us in a big way.
But that is the next horizon, if you like, is to be able to engage in this conversation, actual customer sentiment. To go and bring that in, to go and say, no, people would prefer that we disrupt them properly, get it done, and move on. There's really no real representation of that in the conversation at the moment. I mean, we can sort of say it, but yeah, there's no. The principle that road access is really governed by is the principle that the best thing for everybody concerned is that we maintain the road open as much as possible, regardless of anything else, and that's the bit that needs to change.
So with that in mind, you ultimately see Transport for New South Wales running the system, so that they drive longer windows and therefore cheaper prices, or do you still think it'll be provider driven?
Right now, I think it's going to be provider driven.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting though, because like I say, I think the change in government is really driving a focus on cost efficiency, which I think is going to put a lot of pressure on transport in these sort of areas. And I think the challenge that will come is for to industry. I think it is going to come from industry to go and say, look, tell us the things that are adding cost. So we can put it on the table and let's make a decision. So yeah, look, without wanting to be negative or anything, I just think transport has got a real maturity around the way it works, and it does need some external forces to come in there and just help them on the journey to improve.
There was I'm part of the roadwork safety working group for Roads Australia, and probably 2 years ago now, there was a conversation where through that group we introduced the movement to the safety part of Transport for New South Wales. With all of these conversations with Martin and Dan, it was very difficult to get traction.
I guess once you get there, you can see it being a quick transition where they go, oh, this is great.
That wasn't
it's a long way
the reality of that conversation. It doesn't sound like it's the reality of the conversations you're having yet.
No, but I think I would say it sounds like it's come a fair way in the last couple of years. I mean, we were asked to actually show movement to an area we don't directly deal with within transport. So it does seem that it is actually getting around there a bit. Granted, that was the innovation sort of arm.
Is that the strategic ops?
Yes. Yes.
We're speaking to them tomorrow, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they did ask us to talk to them a bit about how things have gone, and that's encouraging. The thing is, transport, I suppose we speak about them like a monolith, but there are so many different branches in there, and whether they're speaking to each other and actually, understanding that one area is quite invested, that's probably just the nature of an organisation that big, but, there are differing sentiments and differing priorities that, it is trying to balance a couple of plates of getting these things done. So I think movement has probably given us an opportunity to go, yes, we're looking at road occupancy and how we're planning the work, but it also does actually assist with demonstrating that we are looking at the customer elements as well in one place, which I think has historically been a bit of a challenge.
And it's that in one place that I think is the real restrictor. So if you look at within the sort of regulatory environment, there's ownership of different aspects of the customer relationship is quite fragmented. So, we're talking about road access here. The primary thing is that group has no visibility or ownership of the cost implications of those decisions. So we're saying we can save money. It's like, oh, yeah, well, that's nice, but not our primary concern. Whereas you talk to another part of transport, it's like, no, that's absolutely a primary concern. Why can't you do it? So I think if that decision-making process can kind of be consolidated, I think that would really help. But again, it's about how we articulate the problem statement that we're asking people to make the decision on. And again, going back to that Gore Hill example, that was a really good example where you can get all of the aspects of the decision in the room. It's straightforward. Okay, cool. Yeah, we've got to go do that. Yeah, let's go.
Yep. So on the Gore Hill Freeway, just so I'm clear on it, was it mandated that you were having daily meetings with them and providing data via movement?
We just emailed them every day.
You emailed them, okay.
We caught up with them, I think, at the end of the week.
There was at the beginning of the week and at the end of the week to review what it looked like.
Yep.
But there was, I think I sent an email to one person at transport in the morning to let them know it's fine. And then there was emails after that had that data there from the previous year to support those claims.
So you were tracking every morning before you get on the road as well to ensure that there was no issues.
Yeah.
And using movement to do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Caroline had a lot of nights out there.
With my laptop.
Yeah.
You really?
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Okay.
we were very invested in this one
Yeah, okay.
because we were, more than ever, that was one where when if this goes really well,
Yeah.
that's excellent.
Yeah.
So that was, there was a huge level of interest, and thankfully everything went off without a hitch. So,
Yeah.
but that to me was probably the foundational success. That wasn't a maintenance job that was going to take 3 nights. It was something much more significant than that.
Well, thanks, Colin. Misha, did you have any questions or anything? I think you're on mute there, mate.
I was just going to say, you got a question sitting in there, which is around safety and if the guys have been using us for safety. And I guess probably maybe extend that question slightly broader, which is how are they thinking about how data can be used for safety and safer outcomes?
Probably not so much in the first instance, I would say. It tells you what we're currently doing. Whereas for us, it is really about the traffic impact in the first instance.
I suppose there are probably some elements that flow from that. Kylie, looks like
I
she
was
was
just going to say, like, I'm happy to answer this.
Yeah, go for it.
So essentially, once movement has been set up as a site, right, in the initial stages, we usually leave it there to collect that data for a few weeks, maybe a couple of months to understand what the network does, right? So when looking at this data, it's not just the traffic impacts that is the team's focus, right? We look at what the traffic's doing, what the time delays are like, what the queues are like, and the speed the traffic's actually flowing through those sections that we have intentions to work at, to look at what components of traffic is required. Now that can bring in the additional level of safety to the work site, where we could look at innovative solutions or innovative devices like MBT1s, additional TMAs, or look at how we can apply essentially traffic modeling onto those work sites to see what the network does. Based on the data that we get out of that, it's applied through the risk assessment, and we just look at those controls, but also keep monitoring what the network is doing, as well as when it comes to wet weather, incident hotspots, and what the public does or what public transport's doing, to actually give us those components of the work site to show us what we need to focus on.
Yeah, okay.
I think on that point, we've taken average vehicle speeds through roadworks and actually changed the type of traffic management for roadworks and looked at the impact of what's most effective in certain situations.
Yep.
And that's proved pretty valuable.
Yep. I think the other thing, I suppose, incidentally, if you were shortening shifts, from 10 to 5, there would be the fatigue thing as well, right? So that would be without probably trying to look at that too closely. It would still impact safety.
Yeah, and as Colin said, a lot of this feeds into the risk assessment, which I suppose is the major safety element that is involved now. But there's also pedestrian factor as well. So we can't look at things just in terms of, and that was probably another massive consideration for Oxford Street, that all those buses mean pedestrians as well. And, it just adds another element of things that we have to be mindful of.
Yeah. So,
at the moment, that's what it looks like. But I suppose getting some of these devices on the road as well is a challenge. But all in good time.
Yeah. Is there any other questions from any of you? Any online, Misha? You got any?
Oh, no, nothing else online.
No worries. I think maybe that's a wrap then. Thank you very much, guys.
No worries. Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks for everyone online as well. Cheers, Misha.